Complexion is one of my favourite parts of doing makeup, and part of that is a really good, strong cheek. So let me run you through a cheek step by step. First of all, you obviously need to lay your base, but if you're underpainting, typically the first half of your cheek, your cream products, will go underneath your base. I'm somebody that struggles with acne scarring and active spots, so I like to lay my base first so that I can build coverage and spot conceal and then go in with my cheek colour. You have to remember that your base, your foundation, is but one part of your makeup. So typically, especially if you're high colour, when you lay your foundation, everything starts to look a little strange. Your colour might be off, you've taken all of that natural colour out. I like to remember that at this stage, my foundation doesn't need to be perfect. My coverage doesn't need to be 100%, because by the time I add back in shape and dimension and blush, what you'll find is everything starts to balance itself out and your makeup can look a lot more cohesive if you just kind of pull back on your foundation ever so slightly. That said, if you do particularly struggle with acne, get any little extra spots concealed early on so that you're not worrying about them muddying your bronzer in particular. The next step in a typical routine would be concealer, but I personally like to conceal after my cream, blush and bronzer, so let's get into that. I do that because I find that it gives me room to correct and clean up, and I also find that particularly with my blush, it means I can really meld it into the skin. Next up, we're going in with the cream bronzer. Now you want to make sure that you're picking the cream bronzer that works for your undertones. So this is a medium olive undertone. I have some self-tan on at the moment. You can see my face is a little more yellow in comparison to my body, which has this kind of redder undertone. I'm going to correct that when I get into the blush stage, but it's something to bear in mind. Always comes off so much worse on camera than it is in real life. Anyway, moving on, I'm taking a really dense brush. This is a Glam Theory 203 angled buffer, and I'm working a cream bronzer into the butt of the brush, so particularly focusing the product on the base of this brush. And then I'm going to work it into the lid. This is considered priming the brush. Then, with a really, really soft pout, I'm going to establish where my natural hollow of my cheek is. Mine just sits right here. You can see it's created a shadow in here. Now, typically we would contour in that shadow. Back in the day, that was all we did. However, bronzing to sculpt and create definition to the face means that I'm actually going to bronze above that hollow, kind of on the bottom of my cheek rather than underneath it. You can start to see that sculpting coming through. And all I'm doing in these first initial stages is laying down that product and checking my shaping is right rather than actually blending the product in. For that reason, when you're starting, I do actually see benefit to drawing the product on with like a stick rather than putting it on the brush. However, when you do that, sometimes you can muddy your foundation because you then have to buff it, and that buffing motion will disturb where you laid your foundation, aka your coverage. And if you are like me and you have pitted acne scarring or active acne in the area where we are going to lay down this bronzer, keeping that coverage there, maintaining that layer of opacity is really important. Otherwise, you'll